Well, thank you so much for coming today, virtually, in person. I saw many people there, so I'm super excited. And I hope that you enjoyed the presentation. This presentation is going to be part of a world tour, a tour that we are doing in several cities around the world, in which we are trying to show to people how to adopt Salesforce new AI and data capabilities. And we are tweaking the content so that it's like more suitable for developers, if it is a developer group, etc. This is a developer group, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Okay, perfect. So then, perfect, because I am a developer as well, and I love sharing like code and talking about code. But before starting, because I work for Salesforce, I need to include this slide, which just means that Salesforce is on the stock exchange. And if you buy Salesforce, you should do it thinking about the generally available features and not something that is in beta or pilot. So what we're going to take a look at today, it's mostly GA, except Copilot, which is still in beta. And yeah, so let's start by introducing myself. My name is Alba Rivas. I am a developer advocate at Salesforce. So normally what I do is to create content so developers understand Salesforce development features. And that content could be like videos, blogs, etc. And also I give talks at conferences or groups so that people have the opportunity to really ask me questions in person or mostly live. Okay, so if you have questions during the presentation, make sure to put them in the chat. I'm going to be taking a look at the chat and take advantage that I'm here live and ask me anything that you want to know, because it's like the opportunity. And yeah, and thank you again. Thanks all of you for connecting today and for being there, like excited to know about Salesforce AI and data technologies. So this is the agenda. Today we're going to cover Einstein 1 Studio, which is the umbrella for 3 features that we have released very recently. One of them is Prompt Builder, the other one is Copilot, and the other one is Model Builder. We're going to do some demos for Prompt Builder and Einstein Copilot. And finally, we're going to have a section about Data Cloud, in which we're going to see how we can use data that resides in Data Cloud from the generative AI features, because data is like the basis for a good AI. And we showed all the thinking about data today and about having good data. But before starting, I want to clarify some of the terminology that we have in the world of AI, and most concretely generative AI. So generative AI, it's what refers to the wave of AI that came up last year, the beginning of last year. So when ChatGPT was released and everyone started to play with that, that's generative AI. There is a model that is able to understand natural language. It's able to understand what you mean with the language, and it's able to produce content that could be like text, images, or whatever, right? I'm sure that many of you here have used ChatGPT or other generative AI technologies. Then the LLM, or large language model, is the thing that understands what you are asking and returns the response. And that large language model is normally trained in big quantities of data. And in the case of ChatGPT, that data is public data, almost the whole internet, right? And in the case of some industries who have like private models and so on, that data could be like a subset of data that it's more like applicable to their business model or their use case for using AI. Prompt is the thing that you write and you send to the model, the instructions that you send to the model. And grounding, it's very important in the context of CRM, because grounding means adding context to your prompts so that the LLM responses are more accurate. And why is this important in the context of CRM? Well, because the large language models cannot be trained with your customer data. Your customer data is private, and training an LLM in your customer data would be super costly, and it would become outdated very soon, because LLMs are like trained in the past, right? They are trained at a certain moment of time, and then they are able to respond with the information that they have. So an alternative to training a model with that customer data is to ground your prompts with your customer data and send that information to the model in a secure way. And we're going to see how to do that in Salesforce. Then we're going to be like touching on another term, which is kind of more complex, retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. And RAG is a special type of grounding in which we use a vector database to be able to create or ground our prompts in data that comes from unstructured sources such as documents, PDFs, knowledge articles, and so on. And we are able to send that information to the LLM. So to simplify it, RAG is like specific type of grounding. And then we have here the word reasoning. Why? Because LLMs are capable of reasoning. They are capable of receiving a set of instructions, reading through those instructions step by step, and reason to make decisions and to decide which actions to take next, okay? So said that, how can you build with AI plus data? And the first umbrella of tools that we're going to see today are the tools under Einstein 1 Studio: Copilot Builder, Prompt Builder, and Model Builder. Model Builder, I'm not going to do any demos or anything because it's like a little bit more complex. But if you want to know more about Model Builder, we have certain videos from Trailblazer DX in the YouTube channel in which you will be able to find some demos. But let's start talking about the first one, the first tool that we're going to see today, which is Prompt Builder. This one, it's easy to understand because if you have used ChatGPT, it's like the immediate evolution of what you do in ChatGPT, but in the context of a CRM application, okay? So what do we have in Prompt Builder? I mentioned that your customer data is in Salesforce, it is private, and if we want to use a large language model to produce some content, some text in our business context use cases, right? We need to incorporate that data into the prompt itself, because like training the LLM itself in your data is not a good option. So because of that, we decided, so we could like just tell you developers, you create your prompts and you incorporate the data and you create every prompt custom in a custom way every time, and you send it to OpenAI using the API of OpenAI, or you send it to Azure OpenAI using their API, and you cook everything yourself. But we decided to do something that helps you with that. And that's why we created Prompt Builder. So in Prompt Builder, you can create something called prompt templates. Why? Because it's going to be very typical that a customer reuses like the kind of the same structure of a prompt, but using different customer data each time, right? So these prompt templates can incorporate CRM data and also data from data cloud and from external systems. We're going to see that later. Thanks to grounding, this is what we called grounding at the beginning. And they can do that in different ways or through different tools. So we have created a kind of builder in which you can use here merge fields, you can use related lists, you can use flows, and you can use Apex to incorporate data from the CRM into your prompt templates. So those prompt templates, when they are sent to the model, because we want to get a response, they are going to be resolved. And all the data that you bind, like with these tools, merge fields, etc., is going to be resolved into a prompt that is the thing that is finally sent to the LLM and that contains your customer data. But we have agreements with the LLMs that are available as a service in Salesforce so that they don't retain the data or they don't use it to train the model in any case, because, you know, we want to be inside of the trust edge of Salesforce, right? So something else about Prompt Builder is that it's really well integrated with the platform. So you know that in Salesforce, we like connecting things and we want you to be able to execute prompt templates from Flow. We want you to be able to execute them from Apex, from the REST API, and more, right? And that's like a big thing for Prompt Builder. There are different types of prompt templates, and I'm going into the next slide in which we can see like how those prompt template types differentiate. So mainly they are differentiated in their purpose, the reason or the use case in which they are normally used. For instance, we have sales email templates. Well, obviously, they are used to draft emails. Field generation templates, they are used to generate content that is meant to be stored on a field, on a record page. Then we have one which is specific for Copilot. And then we have flex templates. Flex templates are the most interesting ones for developers because they give you flexibility in the sense of that you can bind them with multiple objects and that you can invoke them from multiple places. So there are no out-of-the-box entry points for using them. As for sales emails, for instance, you can draft emails from the email composer using sales emails, or for field generation templates, you can use them directly in Lightning record pages, like with the edit button directly. But for flex templates, there is no out-of-the-box entry points, so they are really designed for developers to create their custom entry points. This means that you can like use this technology from inside of Salesforce, from your custom applications, and also from outside of Salesforce because it is exposed to the REST API, the ability to invoke these templates. The inputs also change. The inputs are basically the records to which your template is linked or bound. And we're going to see that a little bit better in the demo that I'm going to do right now. So here we are in an org in which we have an application for a fictitious hotel resort chain. So guests arrive at the hotel resort and there are some experiences that they can register for. There are some experiences that are like adventure experiences, some other that are like cultural experiences, and so on, right? And in this org, we have created some prompt templates to help like employees from Coral Clouds like complete their tasks faster. And we're going to see some of them. But first, let me show you how you would create a prompt template. So you come here to Prompt Builder, you click on New Prompt Template. Here you need to select the type, the 4 types that I mentioned, and see that depending on the type that I select, this section at the bottom is going to change, because that section at the bottom is where you specify the inputs, the records that are going to be available for that template when it is resolved into a prompt. Basically, the records from which we want to grab information and use it into the template, okay? Then you give it a name, an API name, and that's it. And you select the objects with which you want to bind it, the inputs, okay? So let's take a look, for the sake of time, at some of the templates that I have created. For instance, we have a field generation template that is bound to an experience, like those like adventure experiences and so on, and that it is used to create a summary of customer reviews. Customer reviews is a related object, and experiences has a related list, which are customer reviews. And here we are seeing the simplest tools that we have for doing grounding. So the simplest one would be, okay, I want to add some fields from experience. I can select them from here and add them into my prompt, okay? And then the second simplest one is using related list. Here I can select experience and I can include the guest reviews related list or any related lists that are available for me, okay? So basically here I'm saying, summarize these guest reviews, this is the experience name, and these are the list of guest reviews. This is the template. And what the purpose of us having a template is to execute it like from an entry point in your OR, right? Or maybe from outside of your OR. But here we have a nice section that allows us to test it beforehand. Why? Because iteration is so important in generative AI. If you have played with prompts, you know that you need to tweak them several times until you get to a result that you like, okay? So they give you here this section in which you can select the related records. So depending on the inputs that the template has, here you're going to see different sections to include the fields. In this case, this prompt template is related to experience. So here we are going to select one of the experiences, Tropical Snorkel Adventures. I'm going to save the template because I modified something, and I'm going to preview it. So now, what's happening? So my template is being executed. That means that first, Salesforce is going to resolve all these fields, and it's going to create the final prompt that is going to be sent to the model. And this is the prompt. And you can see that the fields have been resolved. Okay, this is the organization name. This is the name for the experience. And this is the related list of reviews. And then here on the response, we see what the LLM responded. It's just a summary of those reviews. So one more thing here. You saw me that I clicked on Save As. This is because prompt templates can be versioned, same as Flow. It works pretty similar. And also, here on the right-hand side, you can see that I can select a model. So each template is linked to a model, and that's the model that is used when you execute that template. And these are models that are offered by Salesforce as a service. But if you have like a private OpenAI account that you want to link, a fine-tune model that you want to link here, you can do that, okay? Thanks to Model Builder, which is the thing that I'm not going to be covering today, but you know that that is a possibility, that you can do that. So this is great for like creating my template and trying it out and take a look at the result. But actually, we would like to take a look at this in like a real world implementation, right? And because this is a field generation template, we are going to see that in the Lightning record page for experiences, which is the record to which this template is bound. So there's one more step that we need to do in the record page. So if you want to use a prompt template with a field, because we want to store that summary that the model generates in the field, in App Builder, you need to select the field, you need dynamic forms, and you need to select here the template that you want to use. At the moment, because I only have one created, let me see. Okay, yeah, it's the one that I can use. But if there were more templates available, they would appear here, okay? So I already did that. And now, if I want to launch that prompt template, like from the record page, from the out-of-the-box functionality, I just need to click on edit, see that the icon is slightly different to the typical icon. Then I need to click on this Einstein help button. And this is going to launch the prompt template behind the scenes, same as we did from the preview, and it's going to generate a response. I don't know why it didn't work, but I'm going to try again. Live demos.
Alba, I'm sorry, can you please zoom in a bit?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, there it is. Now it worked. So Einstein was able to generate a summary using the prompt template that we have linked to this field here. And then we can go ahead and say, I want to use it in my field and save it. Okay, makes sense so far?
Yeah.
Any questions so far? Okay, so now I'm going to show you one more template, which is a sales email template. So sales email templates have also an out-of-the-box entry point, which is the Salesforce email composer. Okay, I'm not going to show it to you. It's just you click on send email and a button appears that says draft with Einstein, and you can select it and use the template. But I wanted to show you something interesting of this template, which is that here I am grounding the template with flow. Why? Because I'm trying to do something a little bit more difficult, okay? This is a welcome email in which we are saying to the guest, sorry, there's a mosquito somewhere. We are saying to the guest that welcome to the resort, and they are saying to the guest that these are the experiences that are available. But the guest record has information of the things that the guest likes doing, okay? So the way in which we are computing this experiences list is taking a look at what the guest likes. And that's something that we cannot do here just with merge fields and related list. So what we did was to create a prompt, okay? If you want to ground a prompt template with flow, okay, the prompt needs to be a template triggered prompt flow. In this prompt, you will need to select the capability, which is basically the kind of prompt templates for which you want the flow to be available. In this case, we want this flow to be available for sales email templates. And then, because the templates are bound to inputs, those inputs are going to be available in your flow. So for instance, sales email templates are bound always to a recipient, which could be a contact or a lead, and to a sender, which is the user who's executing the prompt, and optionally a related object, okay? So that is something that is going to be available in the template and that we can select here so that those inputs are available in my flow. So why do I need those inputs? Because I mentioned that we want to get the experiences that match the contact interests. Contact is the guest, okay? So we need to access information from the contact record here, the contact with which we are executing that template to generate the final prompt that is sent to the LLM. And if we want to do that, we just need to do $input, then the name of the API name of the input of that prompt template that we want to use here in Flow, and then the API name of the fields that we want to use. So basically, we are retrieving experiences that match the contact interest here. Then we are looping over those experiences. And then, look at this, we are using a new element called add prompt instructions, which is adding text to the prompt. This element adds text in an additive way. So every time that you use it, it's going to add a new line to the prompt. So this means that here, if this loop returns 10 experiences, this element is going to add 10 lines to the prompt. And what do you put in the line? Whatever you want. You can decide that here, okay? In my case, I'm just adding the experience's name. So if I test this here, and for instance, find a contact and preview it, in the left-hand side, we should see the prompt resolved, not only this time with the merge fields or related lists that could be there, but also with all the things that the flow has added to the prompt to ground it with your customer data. Make sense? Okay.
So far, yes, probably.
Perfect. And here we have a nice email that has been created. And finally, I wanted to show you, let me go back to Prompt Builder, a flex template. So flex templates, if I go here to settings, can be bound to up to 5 different records. In my case, I bound it to the contact record because we are using this template to create like a personalized itinerary for the guest, suggesting, so it's something like even more complex than before, because we are taking into account the check-in date, the checkout date, the days that the contact is going to be at the resort, the experiences and the sessions of those experiences. This is the times in which those experiences are happening. And we are like suggesting a personalized itinerary to that guest, okay? And because it's more complex, we are using Apex for that, because here we can use Apex. And if you have Apex classes created that are created in a way that can be used to ground a template, they are going to appear here. Same as before, I didn't show it, but here we had like a flow category. So you always have organization, you always have user, then you have the inputs of the template, and then you may have flow or Apex if there are flows or Apex classes available that you can use in this template, okay? So what, let me see here, yeah. So how those classes look like. So very easy. You need to create an invocable method. That invocable method is going to be bound to a capability type. Why? Because that way we control in which prompt templates can the Apex class appear when you are working on the builder, right? So in this case, we are saying that this is an invocable method specific for the Flex template called generate personalized schedule. okay? Then that method needs to receive a list of requests and return a list of responses. The list of requests, let me show you that. The list of requests is going to contain invocable variables that represents all the prompt template inputs. So same as in Flow, we can access the prompt template inputs to compute the data that we want to add into the prompt. In Apex, we can access the prompt template inputs by defining a request class with invocable variables. And when Salesforce executes the prompt template, it's going to store into these invocable variables the inputs with which that template is being executed. The API names need to match, and it's case sensitive, so be careful with that. Okay? So that would be the request. We bulkify because, of course, this is Salesforce. And then we return a response. So same as in Flow, we have an element to add text to the prompt once the flow finishes. Here, we just compute the whole response, the whole thing that we want to add into the prompt, and we store it in a prompt variable. So here we are basically doing, I get well, this should be more like request, okay? Request rather than input. I don't like the name input. So we get the request. Then we retrieve the contact. The contact is actually the input. Then we do all the logic that we need. In this case, it was complex logic, and we decided to put it in a different class so that it is clear what we are doing here. This logic is able to find like the sessions that match the check-in date and the interests of the guest. And then we create the response. And in the response, we need to, this should be like this, okay? It's case sensitive. So we need to add whatever text we want to include into the prompt to this prompt variable. And that's it, okay? So if I go back here, I could do something like searching the contact Sophia again and see what the Apex method returns and see what the model responds with. Okay, you see, all this data here is the data that Apex is computing and adding to the prompt, okay? And this is the response that has been generated. Oh, I cannot. I don't know why I can. Let me close this. Yeah, there it is. And as you see, it's been able to create like a personalized schedule for that guest. Okay. Because these are flex templates, we cannot, there is no out-of-the-box entry point. We need to call them from somewhere. And you could call them from, you could call them, so they are automatically invoked as invocable actions. So you could call them from Flow. You could call them from Apex, and you could call them from the REST API, and also from Copilot, okay? But I'm not going to show you that because I want to show you something about Copilot. Any questions about Prompt Builder?
I have one question.
Yeah.
I missed, but how we can add the input for template? Because I can see we have a variable my contact, but I can't see how we manage it from builder, from template builder.
Can you repeat the question closer to the microphone? I heard something about the inputs.
Yeah, just give us a second.
Sure. Or maybe you can repeat the question.
Okay, can I repeat?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so how we can manage from template builder what we input to our Apex method that we used as invocable method, because I can see in requires my context, but I cannot see how it managed from template builder, because I can see only the name of Apex, two dots, and name of class that we used, I guess.
Yeah, so if I understood correctly, so when I created that prompt template is when you set the API names. So for instance, let's say that this is my new prompt template, okay? And here is where you can say, okay, I want this prompt template to be bound to a contact, which is going to be called, I don't know, CTC1, and it's going to be bound to contact, and I can also bound it to an account, and maybe I could also bound it to a custom object, okay? And once you do that, all those inputs are going to be available in your flow and in your Apex class.
So can I, in this case, use part of them, or should I use all of them?
You can use all of them, or you can use the ones that you need.
Okay, good.
It's
Got it.
optional.
Thank you.
They are available, but you can use the ones that you need.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
I have one. What about the test classes? How do you invoke those classes?
So because these are invocable actions, you can create test classes because there's nothing special here. Those invocable actions are exposed to prompt builder and prompt templates, but the Apex code is something that you can test from here. If you want to test the prompt builder invocation, I assume that you would be able to do it, because the way in which I didn't plan to show this because of the time, but I can show you very quickly. So the way in which you can invoke prompt templates, for instance, let me see. It was here, yeah. Okay, it's the Einstein Generative Gateway Service. Yeah, that it is. Okay, it's this one. Okay, hope that you see. So basically, you use, if you want to invoke it in Apex, you need to invoke some connect API methods, and those connect API methods at the end are going to invoke the LLM. So I assume that in text context, either they return something different or they give you some kind of mocking capabilities. I'm not completely sure, but I can look into this for you and share it with Ole and Anastasia, so they can maybe send an email to you and tell you later, like, how would you specifically test this use case? Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Testing the grounding is like testing any Apex. Testing the invocation, we probably need to mock that invocation somehow. Okay?
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going into the second part, and then if we have some more time at the end, we can continue with more questions. So you saw that we invoke the prompts, right? And they are sent to the model. But those prompts go first through a series of steps which are part of what we have called the Einstein translator, okay? And these steps are there mainly for security. So for instance, we've seen how data retrieval and dynamic grounding works. This is the thing that resolves your prompt. But after that happens, we do something else. We do data masking for PII data. So for instance, if your prompt contains credit card information, passport numbers, things like that, we mask that. And we send to the model just references, like invented references, so that we can demask when the response comes back. But we don't send like sensitive information to the model. Then we add some prompt defense instructions. We add into the prompt instructions that say, hey, please don't use a rude language because you are in an enterprise ecosystem. Don't hallucinate. If you don't know something, don't invent it because we don't want you to hallucinate and things like that, right? Then the prompt is sent to the model. At the moment, we have those models offered as a service, but you can also bring your own large language model with Model Builder. And we are working on having our own internal Salesforce hosted model for those companies that require even more security, like government companies and things like that. And then the response also goes through certain steps. For instance, it goes through a toxicity detection model that computes some parameters and tells you how toxic or the levels of toxicity that were detected in the response. And that's something that you can check in Apex and the REST API. So the response, when you invoke a prompt template from Apex or the REST API, is going to include all that information of the toxicity and so on. We do the demasking and we store some of the information of the execution that I think this is only true when we are talking about the Salesforce hosted model, because the idea is we are storing this so that we can retrain the Salesforce hosted model to produce better responses. Okay, so this is important because not only prompt builder prompts go through the trust layer. So basically, every interaction that happens from Salesforce to a model goes through the Einstein trust layer. Okay, and Copilot, which is what we are going to do now, is one good example of that. So Copilot, 1 second. Copilot is like going one step further, okay? So prompt templates are like using ChatGPT, but incorporating your customer data and doing everything in a secure, reusable, and integrated way. In Copilot, you send instructions to Einstein Copilot, okay? You ask it for doing things, and Copilot, it's able to first understand the intent of what you are asking. It's able of reasoning and creating a plan of actions. And those actions can do things in your org. For instance, the actions could be something like querying records, updating records, creating records, and could also be doing other things. For instance, using a prompt template to generate an email or to generate content, etc. The difference is that instead of just sending an instruction and producing some text, we send a set of instructions and Copilot creates a plan of actions that may include changing your data in your organization, okay? Copilot also knows about your org's data and metadata. So for instance, if you ask Copilot about cases, Copilot is gonna know what's the metadata for cases, which fields case has, and is going to be able to identify which fields you are referring to in your request. And it's going to be able to query the data, the cases that are in your organization to create summaries or to just respond to your question, and not only respond to your question, but also take action in the org if it's needed. It can create data, update data, etc. Okay. So this is like a summary of how it works. So you open up the sidebar. It's also on a sidebar, same as prompt builder when you use the field generation templates, and you explain what you want it to do, right? So then Copilot is able of reasoning, this concept that we explained at the beginning. And if you say, can you create an email for my top open opportunities this week, it's able to understand that it needs to identify a record, then it needs to draft an email, and then it needs to revise an email. And obviously, this plan is being created doing calls to a large language model. So what I imagine is that behind the scenes, Copilot is sending like this request together with the metadata and data and so on to the LLM, and the LLM is responding with this set of actions that needs to be executed. Okay, so once it has identified the actions to execute, it executes the actions sequentially, and we see here a feedback loop because the outcomes of the actions are available for the next action. It's like it's smart enough to remember history and chain actions one with another. The actions, you can see here that I have flows, prompts, Apex, APIs, and this is because the actions can be standard, but can also be custom, which is like something very special of Copilot, because it's, you know, in the Salesforce platform, we want you to be able to integrate and extend everything, and that's feasible thanks to Copilot. The standard actions are some cross-cloud actions that it doesn't matter which cloud the user is working, they are going to act in the same way. And there are some actions that are specific for certain clouds and industries. But the plan can include actions from all the different clouds. It can do like first something in Sales Cloud and then go to Service Cloud, etc., etc. And the custom actions, you create them. You can create custom actions with Flow, with Apex, very interesting for developers. You can also create custom actions that invoke prompt templates. This is the connection between Prompt Builder and Copilot, okay? And you will be able, because it's not ready, to also invoke external services, like third-party APIs. Okay, so Copilot demo. Let me go to here, zoom in a little bit, and let me open my notes here because I'm going to be copying some of the statements of the asks that I want to ask Copilot. Okay, so to open Copilot, you click on here, on this icon on the right-hand side at the top, and then you can start doing things here. So for instance, I'm going to ask, are there any high priority cases open? And then Copilot is like analyzing what I said and trying to create a plan to retrieve those cases. Let's see if it finishes. And then we're going to see like how it works behind the scenes. I wanted to show you like the UI first, and then go into the builder. Come on, Copilot. Normally, it doesn't take that long, but you know the demo effect, right? Live demo effect. Okay, meanwhile, I'm going to the builder, and we will get back here. So the builder. You need to go in setup to Einstein copilots, and in this setup menu, you're going to have all the different copilots that you have created. Imagine, so copilot is an agent, so you may want to have different agents in your org for different use cases. In this beta version, because it is in beta, there's only one. So you go into it. Let me refresh the org. Maybe I have been like a long time disconnected, something like that, and it's not working. It's not my internet connection, right? You can still hear me. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah, the connection is good. It's probably something.
Okay, okay. So I don't know what happened. Something happened. Oh no. Let me see if I can open setup again. Something is not working. Meanwhile, I can show you. You see, it's completely blank. This is weird. Meanwhile, I can show you. So I mentioned that in Copilot, you can invoke standard actions and you can invoke custom actions. So if you want to invoke a custom action, okay, you need to create also an invocable method, same as for Apex rounding, okay? And in the invocable method, you basically receive a request which is going to contain all the variables that Copilot should guess from the customer ask and include when executing this Apex class, and all the variables that you want Copilot to, or that you want the Apex class to respond to Copilot, to send to Copilot, okay? Let me see. It's not working. So maybe I can go into a different OR. I have an OR, but in this OR, I didn't have Copilot correctly set up and it was not working. But let me see if at least I can show you the builder.
I guess the previous work is working. The link looks okay now.
Come on. Friends, I don't know what's happening. Nothing is working on my end. Let me try one more time. And if it doesn't work, I will go into Data Cloud, okay?
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to understand how this works without seeing the actual thing. But yeah, this would be the way to create an Apex Copilot action. It's basically same as if you think of prompt templates, it's similar. So you receive some informations and inputs from the Copilot planner that may come from previous execution of actions, and then you return some things to Copilot so that it can do something with them. So for instance, here, this is a class that checks the weather using a third-party API. And so what we do is to, when we define this action, we add a description of the action in Copilot saying, this custom action checks the weather for a specific date. And then Copilot, taking into account that description, is able to know when to use the action. And if you ask Copilot, like, what the weather is going to be like tomorrow in Coral Clouds, right? It's able to determine that it needs to use this action and it's able to execute it. Okay, that's the thing, more or less. No, nothing is working right now. Let me show you, so probably here. I want to show you a picture of the planner. Let me see if I can show you that planner Copilot. Salesforce. Because it's like very self-descriptive and I want to show it to you, even I don't show you the demo. Let me see if I find a good one. I don't know. Trailhead is not working either. I'm going to put this like bigger. Yeah, there it is. So there is a planner, which is like the builder, same as you build and test prompt templates in Prompt Builder. There in Copilot, there is the Copilot Builder, which is where you can test what Copilot does behind the scenes when you execute or when you ask it things, right? So for instance, here it seems it's doing first, identify record by name, which is a standard action, and then it's summarizing the record. This is probably what Copilot is doing to something like summarize the record Sofia Rodriguez, okay? So it's able to identify that Sofia Rodriguez is a contact. It's able, well, in this case, it's account edge communications, so summarize the account edge communications. So it's able to find out that edge communications is an account. It's able to find out that it needs to retrieve that account, and it's able to find out that you are asking it to summarize that record. And we see here that it's executing the default summarization action. And if you have Apex actions or flow actions, they are going to appear here, okay, in each of the plans. Something happened with Salesforce because Trailhead is not working either, okay? So I'm sorry for that. But something that we can do, there is a Trailhead module that I'm going to share at the end in which you can try it out yourself. So probably it's not working, but maybe in half an hour it's working and you can try it out. And there are also some good videos from Trailblazer DX explaining Copilot very well. Okay. I know it was a little bit rushed and not super descriptive demo, but are there any questions that I can answer for you about Copilot?
Yeah, there is one. Just give me a second. I will configure a microphone.
Sure.
On which type of organization we can try this? For example, in developer org, is this available?
No, it's not available, and it is not available because it has a high cost. But at the end, I'm going to share a Trailhead module in which you can request a 5-day trial org. So they give you the trial org so that you try it out, but only 5 days because it's expensive for Salesforce.
Maybe some in some another type of organization, for example, some partners have marketing clouds, some
Okay. Yeah,
but
I can.
maybe some more type of organization in this case available.
Yeah, of course. So if you decide to like purchase generative AI, there are two routes to that. One way is upgrading the org to an Einstein edition. So now there are like Einstein 1 editions, several of them, and that's one option. The other option is to keep the edition that you have and purchase it as an add-on. There is an Einstein for Sales add-on, Einstein for Service, and Einstein for Platform. And the 3 add-ons and also the license, the edition upgrade gives you access both to Prompt Builder and Copilot.
Thank you.
Any more questions? I have a small question. So, for example, can we use a Copilot to generate some test data for some test purposes, but mass test data, like thousands of records?
Yeah. So you mean test data, like test records?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could. Because there is a create records action. But the problem with that is that it's going to create them in the org. So as long as you are not thinking about unit test and you are thinking about, I don't know, performance test or something like that, that need the data to really be created in the org, you can use it. If you want to create test data, like for your unit test, then you will need, so I've done that with ChatGPT. You don't need Copilot. You can do it with ChatGPT or a prompt template simply, because it's simply asking the model to create test data following certain schema, right? So it's simpler than creating test records in the OR. If you want to modify the OR records in the OR, then you need Copilot. But if you want to generate some kind of text, that could be like plain text or HTML, JSON, whatever, JavaScript, whatever, then you can use like regular prompts.
Okay, thanks.
Something that is really interesting for unit tests and for integration tests is Einstein for developers, because Einstein for developers is an extension. I don't know if you know it, but it's an extension for Visual Studio Code and Code Builder that at the beginning, it only had like code generation by using a prompt, no? So with an area in which you could like type, I want to create an Apex method that does whatever, and it was creating that for you. But at the moment, it has two more new things that are amazing. One of them is a line completion, which means that while you are typing, it's taking a look at the classes that you have opened, your metadata and so on, and suggesting what to write next. And it works pretty well because I've used it and it works pretty well. And then the other thing is the ability to generate unit tests. So you click on with the right button on a method, and you click on create test, and it creates the test for you. But it doesn't, tests sometimes are very complex. So the results may be not like super accurate, but at least it creates the scaffolding and a starting point. The inline auto-completion, it's super good. The test one, I haven't used it that much, and I think that it's like a much more complex use case, but the inline auto-completion, I swear you, it's amazing. Okay, so data cloud. Last thing that I wanted to mention today, and very briefly. So for having good AI, we need good data, right? And that's why data cloud is now like available in, I think it's all P orgs, E orgs, and I don't remember exactly, but I remember last Dreamforce, we opened it up so that everyone can like try it out and use it, because it's really important. So with data cloud, you can like bring data into Salesforce that comes from different systems. Under the hood is a different infrastructure that is specifically designed for being like a data lake, to have like big quantities of data, and it allows you to harmonize all that data. Why? Because normally when you have data from different systems, right? For instance, a contact in one of the systems may have a slightly different name or a different email than in other systems of those systems that are connected to your org and in your company, right? That you are using in your company or your use cases. And what Data Cloud helps you doing is to harmonize all that data. It helps you like connecting the fields that come from different systems. You can define like rules that say, if the name in this system is different from this one, I want to pick this one because this one has more priority. Or you can define even more complex logic to help it deciding how to harmonize the data. And it creates like a unified individual record that contains data from all the different systems. Normally, this is for contacts and for leads, right? Because it's like the type of data that we are trying to follow, although you can like retrieve also data from many other objects. There is a canonical data model that has been created taking into account like the most common business use cases in the enterprise world. So how does it work? So first we connect with all the different systems, and we have connectors for all the things and systems that you can imagine. Indeed, we have the bring your own lake functionality if you are using already something like Snowflake. Then we harmonize the data doing that data mapping that I mentioned and identity resolution. And finally, once we have the unified view of the customer, we can define like actions that will execute under certain conditions. It's like defining business logic, but we do it in slightly different ways that are more suitable when we are talking about touch points with a contact or a lead, a possible customer, right? And there are like different ways to do that in Data Cloud. I'm not going to get too much in depth into Data Cloud, but I wanted to mention one feature of Data Cloud that is currently in pilot and that is really interesting. So when we saw in Prompt Builder, I'm going to see if it's recovered because I would like to show it to you, but it is not. No. So when we saw in Prompt Builder that you can ground the prompt template with the merge fields and related lists and so on, right? That all that data comes from the CRM, except if you are using Data Cloud enrichment, in which it can come also from Data Cloud, right? But this feature is something that Salesforce is working on, which is smarter. It's a feature that is going to provide like a new way of grounding, a new way of incorporating data into your prompt template that is going to be able to search that data into Data Cloud and retrieve that data from Data Cloud. But what's new about this is that because we are using a technique called retrieval augmented generation that I mentioned at the beginning, is able to do similarity search in structured and unstructured data. This means that you may have a reference to, I don't know, the word mountain, you may have that reference in a custom field or in a standard field, and you may have that reference in a document and in a knowledge article, and maybe you are using like synonyms of mountain, right? Instead of using mountain, you're using peak in one of the documents, and in other document you are using, I don't know, like different synonyms for the same word, right? So because we are using artificial intelligence to do that search with retrieval augmented generation, we are able to find those documents, those knowledge articles, and that structured data, those fields, if they have something in common, because artificial intelligence gives us that capability. And we are going to have a data provider in Prompt Builder that allows us to do that search and incorporate all that data into your prompt template. It's a little bit more complex and advanced because you need to understand like many things, but think about it about like a search feature that is going to allow you to search like in a very intelligent way in Data Cloud and incorporate everything that it finds into your prompt templates so that your prompt templates are even more contextualized and produce more accurate responses, okay? Under the hood, it uses a vector database. If some of you have been playing with AI, you will know that this is like a common technique used in generative AI. And as I mentioned, it's able to find in the structured data, but also in unstructured data, which is the nice things, right? If you have the word mountain within a PDF, it's going to be able to find it and return that result, which is something that at the so far it was not possible. And then this is going to be able to incorporate that into the prompts and use your prompts in the same way as we have seen before. Okay, these are the trailhead modules that you can complete for getting the 5-day trials for AI and for data. These two, Prompt Builder and Copilot, I call it Prompt Copilot, but this is just multitasking. Let me see if it works. Because I wanted to call it only Copilot. It doesn't work, right? So probably it's Copilot. It's not working, but it's this one. It's not working because Salesforce is not working. Okay, TH Copilot, there it is. So these two give you a 5-day trial for AI. And this one gives you a 5-day trial for Data Cloud, if you haven't tried it out. And with that, I finished my presentation. I'm happy to respond to any questions that you have.
One question. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Okay. So we've been working a lot with the Einstein bots, and looking at the Copilot, it seems like Einstein bots should be deprecated, right? Does Salesforce have a plan for that, or how it will work?
Yeah, indeed, the Einstein bots, so Copilot is the evolution, the natural evolution of Einstein bots. What happens is that the technology under Einstein bots was like more, like you had to create everything behind the scenes. It was less intelligent, right? Because you had to implement all the possible interactions in order for it to work. And now with Copilot, it's like you don't need to do much, just create the actions, and Copilot is able to respond intelligently. So I don't know about deprecation or migration plan, but I foresee that at some point they will want to do something like that, because it's the natural evolution, but I can't tell you when, and I haven't heard anything about that, because I understand that this is beta. Customers have bots implemented, and for sure, if they do something like that, they will provide a migration path or tool so that you don't have to do much.
Okay, and thank you. And as I understood, for example, if my client has been using Salesforce since 2005, for example, the org is huge, can he just purchase an additional tool, any of those? So just in addition to his org.
If they can purchase, sorry, an additional?
If they can purchase the Copilot, for example, just in addition to the existing org.
Yeah, I think so. So they can, I'm not an expert on licensing, but as I understood, it's an add-on. So you need to just like talk to your account manager and say that you want to use the add-on.
Okay, thanks. Any more questions?